Hey guys, Sean here. So, last night I watched episode Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker because, well, I figured I was gonna review it with my friend Evan, but because, like I mentioned in my Furiosa video, stuff changed and I'm now living with my sister, my brother-in-law. So I figured if I didn't do the review by myself, it was never gonna get done. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I watched Rise of Skywalker last night, and let's talk about it. So, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, or also known as Star Wars Episode 9: The Rise of Skywalker, is a 2019 American epic space opera film produced, co-written, and directed by J.J. Abrams, produced by Lucasfilm and Abrams' production company Bad Robot, and distributed by Walt Disney Motion Pictures. It is the third film of the sequel trilogy following Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and the final episode of the 9-part Skywalker saga, which I have stuff to say about that, and I'll get into it later. Its ensemble cast include Carrie Fisher, by the way, may she rest in peace, Mark Hamill, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Anthony Daniels, Naomi Ackie, Domhnall Gleeson, Richard E. Grant, Lupita Nyong'o, Kerry Russell, Juna Suetamo, I think I butchered that name, Kelly Marie Tran, with Ian McDermott and Billy D. Williams. Set after The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker follows Rey, Finn, and Poe as they lead the remnants of the Resistance in a final stand against Supreme Leader Kylo Snoke and the First Order, who are allied by the resurrected Sith Lord Emperor Palpatine. So this was directed by J.J. Abrams, written by Abrams and Terrio, along with Derek Connolly and Colin Trevorrow, with story credit, which I'll also get to that in a second. The movie was released December 20, 2019, with a runtime of 2 hours and 22 minutes. The budget was $416 million, made back $1.077 billion. Okay. So, this was not very good. Let's just say that right off the bat. This movie was not good. And there's one huge problem with that. The Palpatine thing. Let's just get that out of the way first. So, we all know Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi. Like, his death was pretty definitive. Right? He pretty much vaporized, and then whatever was probably left of him perished in the Death Star destruction, which also I'll get to that too. But he's dead. Like, dead. And yet, somehow he's back. Like, they literally say somehow Palpatine returned because the filmmakers couldn't bother to come up with an explanation. And also, Palpatine has somehow constructed 10,000 Death Star destroyers, which are literally Star Destroyers with Death Star capabilities. Question: if Palpatine's been alive the whole time, and has had Star Destroyers with Death Star capabilities, what was even the point of Snoke in the First Order? Like, no, seriously, what was the point? That is this movie's biggest flaw, is that from being the 9th and final film in the Star Wars Skywalker Saga trilogy series, it really calls into question the last 7 or last 8 movies. Like, literally. Because the fact that Palpatine's even still alive, and I know I'm harping on this one small detail, but it's a very big detail, because if Palpatine's still alive, then Anakin's sacrifice in Return of the Jedi was all for nothing. He died for nothing, literally. Like, you guys remember when Emperor was trying to electrocute Luke, Vader picked him up, shocked his own body, and ended up dying? That was all for nothing. Because somehow Palpatine came back. Again, they literally say somehow Palpatine returned. Because the filmmakers couldn't bother to come with a fucking explanation. So, that's one problem with the movie. And it's a big one. Let's get the other elephant out of the... Let's address the other elephant in the room. Carrie Fisher. Now, she passed away before The Last Jedi came out. And so, given how The Last Jedi left her character, still alive, that caused a conundrum for Episode 9. So, what they did was they basically poured through unused footage from The Force Awakens, like alternate takes, deleted scenes, maybe some outtake stuff, I don't know. Anything that was not used from The Force Awakens was repurposed for this. And it does kind of stand out. Like, I give them credit for trying to put her in this final movie, but her scenes kind of do stand out. But I don't envy them that task, because I honestly think they did the best they could with with the situation they were placed in, which was her unfortunate passing. So, while it's sad that she passed away, I think they did the best they could with Leia. And I know, and I had this nitpick last night that, okay, and again, I know Fisher passed away, so again, they can only do they were only allowed to be able to do what they could. But, you're telling me, and these are both Disney properties, I can make this comparison, so you're telling me that in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Yondu had a 5-minute funeral with the works, cremation, fireworks, everything, yet Leia gets only 20 seconds under a sheet. Are you shitting me? Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy got a 5-minute funeral, yet Leia only gets 20 seconds under a sheet? That is bullshit. I know it's like a little nitpicky thing, but come on. Star Wars has been around a lot longer than Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, on film it has. I don't know about the Galaxy. I don't know about the Guardians comics. But in terms of film, Star Wars has been around a lot longer. Leia deserved better, to be honest. But let's talk about the rest of the plot. So basically, as I said, somehow Palpatine returned, and so now the Resistance is trying to, hopefully once and for all, wipe him out. So, and I've read that according to the novelization for Rise of Skywalker, he apparently cloned himself, which I've heard is ripped straight from Dark Empire. I've never read that, because the only EU book I've ever read was Heir to the Empire. But I will say this. I think the actors are fine for what they're given, which, let's be honest, isn't really much, considering this movie is basically just damage control. Like, you can't really, it's hard to tell where the damage control ends and where the real story begins. Because, and look, I don't like The Last Jedi. You guys have seen me and Evan's review. I hated that movie. But even I will admit, this was a horrible way to make Episode 9. By doing damage control. Because almost everything that was set up in Last Jedi, and again, I have to stress this, I hate that movie, is entirely walked back. Rey being a nobody? Nope, she's a Palpatine. Which just makes no fucking sense at all. Considering that means Palpatine got down and dirty when he was still crispy face. Although the novelization apparently says that his son was a clone, was a failed, useless clone, similar to what Boba Fett was revealed to be in Attack of the Clones. But here's a question. Here's a couple questions. One, if Rey's father was a clone of Palpatine and did not have the Force, how does she have it? That's one. If her father was a clone of Palpatine, how did he escape Exegol? Which is, none of these questions are addressed. Okay. If her father was a clone of Palpatine, why was he not meant to sit on the throne? And yeah, that's something else I'm going to get to in a second. Yeah, there's so many questions about this plot point. It would take a whole probably other video to talk about it. And yeah, speaking of the throne, so Palpatine's whole plan is to get Kylo to bring Rey to him, have Rey kill him, and I guess his spirit will go into her, and she'll be the new Empress of the Sith. Yeah, that makes no sense considering through the first 2/3 he told Kylo to kill her. And yet he says, I never wanted you dead. It's, motherfucker, you totally wanted her dead. Don't act like you didn't want her dead. We clearly saw you want her dead. So yeah, the climax had to have been reshot. Because I've heard there was a bunch of reshoots on this movie. Let's see. Like I said, man, like, the whole problem with this trilogy, and it's kind of been planned obvious the whole time, there was no plan with these movies at all. Like, none at all. There was no plan. Because you're really going to tell me that Snoke was truly meant to die in the second movie? I don't buy that, like, at all. And the way they resolved that plot point is that Snoke was apparently a clone that Palpatine created in a lab. Like, he literally has a line, I made Snoke. And we see that quite literally when we see thousands of several Snoke clones sitting in a vat. Yay. Yeah, like, okay. So, here's something I wanted to talk about. Okay. So, this movie is called The Rise of Skywalker. These 9 films are called the Skywalker Saga. Yet, at the end, you literally kill off the entire Skywalker bloodline. Why? Yeah, that makes no sense at all. Like, I could understand killing off Han and Leia. Okay, I don't understand that one, but I partly do. But why not keep Ben alive? Yes, I get the idea he's done thousands of evil deeds, and he was implicated in a lot of murders, but at least keep one Skywalker alive. Because, think about it now. In terms of all 9 films, Shmi is dead, Anakin's mother. Anakin is dead. Padme is dead. I mean, she's not Skywalker by blood, she's Skywalker by marriage, so she kind of counts. Luke is dead. Han is dead. Again, Skywalker by marriage. And Leia is dead. And now, thanks to this movie, Ben is also dead. So again, the entire Skywalker bloodline is dead. That makes no sense at all. You know what else makes no sense? At the end of the movie, Rey takes the name Skywalker. Even though both Luke and Leia told her to never be afraid of who you are, and that some things are stronger than blood. But yet, she chooses the Skywalker name because I guess she's afraid of her own bloodline. I don't get it at all. To quote one of my favorite YouTubers, Filmmaster Adam, you're not a Skywalker, you're fucking lies! But yeah, this movie is a damn mess. I have no ambition to watch any of these movies again. Honestly, I'm just gonna stay with the first 6 movies. Those were obviously the best ones. And it's actually kind of funny now that thanks to the sequel trilogy, a lot of people are starting to look back on the prequels saying they weren't so bad anymore. I find that kind of funny. I also kind of find that some people are doing that with Crystal Skull after Dial of Destiny came out. Looking back at Kingdom of Crystal Skull, perhaps we treated you too harshly. Kind of funny. And I think some people are doing the Hobbit trilogy after that Lord of the Rings Rings of Power show. Kind of funny. And yeah, I want to bring up something about the damage control kit. So, in The Force Awakens, Hux was kind of a menacing guy. Right? I wouldn't say threatening, but menacing. Yet, in The Last Jedi, they basically turned him into a punching bag. And I mean that quite literally, because all that happens is he gets tossed around and turned into a bitch by both Snoke and Kylo. In this movie, he's basically the resistance spy within the First Order, and then gets shot once he's found out. And yeah, and they basically just took Hux from the Force Awakens and then rebranded him as Allegiant General Pride. That's basically what they did. That's why I say it's hard to tell where the damage control ends and the real story begins. Oh, and yeah, I love how when Rey picks up the dagger, like Ochi Pisteel's dagger, she says terrible things have been done with this. Yet this whole trilogy, she's been rocking the Youngling Slayer 5000. It's like, seriously, how do you not know that younglings were killed with that thing? I mean, yes, that happened before you were born, but how do you not know this stuff? I mean, because you seem to know everything else about the original trilogy that you shouldn't know already. And look, I'll say this. As far as seeing both Ian McDermott and Billy Dee Williams come back, I haven't really talked about Lando, because Lando doesn't really do much in this movie. But honestly, for seeing them for the first time since Return of the Jedi, I didn't mind it. I didn't really mind seeing them again. I mean, they have no reason to be in this movie, but I didn't really mind seeing them. I just, honestly, I wish there was I wish that we could have gotten one movie where all the legacy characters were together again. That's, I think, the biggest crime of the sequel trilogy, is that we didn't see all the legacy characters again. Together. And speaking of, so, you guys remember the part in the trailer where 3PO is getting his mind wiped and says, where Poe says to him, "What are you doing there, 3PO?" And then 3PO says, "Taking one last look, sir, at my friends." See, the trailers built that up as this big emotional moment, but in the actual movie, it doesn't play well because the people he's talking to are not his friends. He's barely had any contact with Rey, Finn, and Poe, and what little contact he has had has always been in the negative. That scene would have played a lot better if it were Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, and R2. And even Lando would have been better when they're there. But it's not them. So that scene falls flat. So any emotion you're trying to get out of that scene falls flat because it's not characters he's familiar with. But you know what? I'm done talking about this movie. It's bad. It's literally bad. Because I've been going almost 20 minutes. I don't know what else to talk about with this. I don't know what else to say about this movie. I mean, if I can say any positive, is that John Williams is still great at music. That's probably the best thing I can say about this movie. And hell, I'll say about the sequel trilogy in general. That for as bad as these movies are, John Williams is still the king of it. He's still the best element in these movies, regardless of how bad the movies are. Because I think I've said this in either my Force Awakens or Last Jedi review, that even in bad movies, John Williams is still the best part of it. Which, if the music is the best part of the movie, I don't think that's a good thing. But you know what? I'm out. Good day.